Well, I'm recording a fascinating black screen, but at least we can hear each other, and that's without can be recorded, and that's fine. Um,
Yeah.
I'll take it from there. So cool. Hello, everybody. Um,
Hello.
and
Hello.
the let's see here. I just thought of something that I want to do. So everybody, look toward your camera and be winsome and happy and involved and excited about role playing. There we go. All right. So that's so I just took a screen capture, so at least I have our little panel there that we can put up and say that's what you would have seen, right?
Right.
So, as they say, whatever it takes sometimes. Okay, everybody, sorry for wasting all that time. Let's talk
don't
a
worry.
little bit about what we're looking at. We're looking at this game, which all of you have realized is very much of a type. And I will forgive the authors because they obviously loved it, right?
Yes.
The love is apparent. They meant it, and so I kind of want to honor that. And while it's really hard not to snark at all kinds of things, I mean, I will only say for the record, they clearly had no idea how to say anything about situations in play. You kind of vaguely said, go to a town and do something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then there's an encounter, right? And it really is pretty damn vague. So let's take a look, though. We have our 4 characters, and I have a couple of maps of desert fantasy maps. And I was hoping to really know exactly which one I wanted to use. I was hoping to find the perfect one. I'm still looking, and I've got a couple of candidates. But briefly, I'm looking for harsh wasteland with a river running through it.
Mm-hmm.
And lots of different topography. I want plateaus, and I want areas that are far away from the river, and I want interesting looking terrain. Now, one thing I may have to do is get something that's not a fantasy desert and just say, okay, all those oceans and bays and seas, that's all sand.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That way I think I'll get probably the best map. So I may do that. I may just, sort of conceptually convert another map. And because I didn't quite find one that I was looking for, of the type I was looking for. But that gives you the idea. I want, for example, to be able to say this is the river and the associated terrain with a couple of places that could be farmed or are okay for a human settlement. And then I want a lot of territory that dusters could be in. Plenty of it, of course, would be along the river or easily traveled to the river and back. And then others are just way out there. Others are off in places where, humans would never go without magical or considerable logistic preparation. So that's what I have in mind. So without that map, it's kind of hard. It would be really nice to show you a map and say, okay, well, here's, this town and here's that. But for right now, just kind of imagine we have such a thing. I don't plan for the characters to travel across continents like the RuneQuest game, right? Where basically I say, all right, well, let's put you here, and like, oh, we're here. I want you instead I want to get to know this area through what we do. Now, this may interest you. What I have in mind is to create, and I've found a couple of models for it, and you will never have to see this unless you want to, particularly afterward. I'm creating an enormous family tree. And it will have several different source families in it. So it's not just a genealogy. So there's lots of different, families, and you can see like when members of them come together and produce, their own set. And so, but I want it to be pretty big. And Obviously, the fun part is that then I sort of arbitrarily pick which of the starting points is humor and which is duster. Right. And so that's kind of cool. It doesn't mean every single non-player character you meet will be related through this web work, but a lot of them will be. And my thinking is that some of it is acknowledged and obvious culturally, and some of it kind of isn't. I mean, there may be some family connections that people either don't talk about or they don't even know here and
Okay.
there. And
Okay.
so the question is whether you want your character to be in that connection. So say we had two characters who were somewhere in here, then that means they would be, however distantly, sort of related, or related to people who themselves are, related through some other connection. It could be all three characters. It could be none of them. They could know about it. They could not know about it. I don't really care. So just that you know that in this community, in this culture, spread across Duster tribes, spread across, the human communities there are going to be times when you say, well, I'm so-and-so's child of this or that community or of that clan, and somebody else will say, oh yeah, well, my grandmother was involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
That can happen. So you can kind of decide whether your character is connected up that way or not, and it's fine either way. It'll help me a lot with managing non-player characters and their attitudes and their sense of commitment to one another. So that's one thing. And go ahead.
So what I'm getting from this is that I guess, well, I don't know if this is in the text, but I'm asking you specifically about this. The Dusters, tribes or clusters or whatever we want to call them have a strong sense of family. I mean, it's something that is going to be present. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it would be logical if our characters, or at least if my character was in there connected to others.
Okay. All right.
I think
Sounds
that's
good.
kind of
it
the
is
way
a little
I would
bit of
envision it anyway.
It is a little bit of an automatic association method. I mean, even if the characters don't care, the viewer cares, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one idea. But again, I'm not requiring that everybody get all hooked together. I think that the presence of such a set of interrelationships throughout the social matrix of play gives enough weight, even all by itself. So hop in there. But if you want, Helmut, you can go right ahead and say, okay, something in my Duster Tribe's background, or maybe some members of my tribe have had these interactions, and there are, however distantly, this one's sister, was a half Duster, so there's a half sister. I'm a Duster, but my mom also has a human lover, and so I've got this half Duster brother, and that half Duster brother, travels off to the other tribes for us and stuff like that. Who knows, right? So those are all possibilities. So then another point has to do with the characters. As Lorenzo and I was talking about earlier, I think it's incredibly apparent that their level system has no fictional, meaning.
Is there even a cap? I didn't find anything about a level cap anywhere.
A level cap for different races, you mean?
No, I mean it's like when you reach level 20, it's over. Because sometimes it speaks like it says something. It's at some point it says something like you can only spend 100 points into a single stat. And I was thinking, okay, to spend 100 points there, I need a whole lot of levels. And
Well,
so
one thing that I have noticed is that sometime in the last couple of decades, people started talking about Dungeons and Dragons as if there were a finite number of levels.
Mhm.
I can tell you that in my entire history in role playing, it was a given that level increase was infinite. No one
Mhm.
ever talked. Given types of characters would have level caps. So, a half orc in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons could only become a 10th level fighter and no higher, for example.
Yeah.
But the idea that it was clear, it's unlimited. Sooner or later, somebody got the idea that there were caps on those. But I think this game was inspired by a form of Dungeons and Dragons where there was no limit.
Yeah.
You're going to play forever. You're going to play this game for the rest of your life. You will never.
It looks like
Right.
it's
Yeah.
I think it was probably third edition that said before the epic level handbook came out, level 20 is where the game stops.
Right.
Yeah,
there was nothing of the kind before.
Yeah.
And so then, anyway, the point here, though, is we can just say, all right, I like the idea of enjoying the fact that you'll get a few more skill points and then you'll just sprinkle them onto your skills, as you want. I mean, it's as Helma points out, it's not much. I mean, even without that cursed spirit roll that says, no, you can't spend them yet, wait another level.
Yeah.
I know, even
Yeah.
without that.
Yeah.
I just loved that idea after the RuneQuest game.
Yeah, exactly. Well, right. I mean, the RuneQuest is considered very harsh because of the roll. But even that's every session for every skill that you succeed in. I mean, you're probably going to go up in something. But here, it's you have to wait a whole level with all these experience points, and then, anyway, even without that, the few points you get aren't going to be a lot. So who knows? Maybe we'll just sort of arbitrarily, level up, as we go, just to enjoy it, right?
Yeah, because my impression is that either you do level in a way that is completely not D&D. I mean, D&D has this, idea that level takes some time and they need to express something in the future. You got stronger.
Right.
And my impression here is that either you remain coherent with the character you've made and you don't do it very often, or you go pedal to the metal and every session, every 2 sessions you go like,
They obviously cared about the structure. The vast majority of the rulebook is about the structure of skill and spell improvement.
Yeah.
I mean, pound for pound, a huge amount of the text is dedicated to that little weird tree that they like to draw for every
I was
skill.
surprised to see that
So
the chapter.
why slow it down? I mean, if you care about it that much, why slow it down? So,
yeah. The chapter about how you play the game is like 3 pages.
Right.
It's
right. Yeah. So, I agree. Very little otherwise. Well, anyway, so